Blackhawks first round pick Marek Vanacker is heading back to the OHL this season. I'll break down why I expect a mammoth final year from him in Brantford, and the Hawks dominating yet another top prospects list.
You're Locked On Blackhawks, your daily podcast on the Chicago Blackhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Locked On Blackhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Just wanted to say quickly thank you to all of you for making the show your very first listen here to start off your week. I'm your host, Jack Bushman. Can go and find me on X at Jack Bushman 2, but make sure to check out my strictly Blackhawks account at Talkin' Hockey so you don't miss out on any of the latest Blackhawks news and updates. On today's episode, what kind of season is in store for 2024 first round pick Marek Vanacker? I'll get into my full preview and expectations of his upcoming season in the OHL. Then I'll also dive into Mitch Brown from Elite Prospects top 100 prospects list, which the Blackhawks were unsurprisingly well represented in. And then during segment 3, I'll also touch on Vaclav Nestrasil being part of Team Czechia's roster for the Five Nations tournament. Real quick, though, I do got to let you all know first, today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. Go and download the Game Time app, create an account, and then use our promo code LOCKEDONNHL in all caps to get $20 off with your first purchase and to take the guesswork out of buying your tickets. All right, Blackhawks fans, kicking things off on today's show, I'll be continuing my prospect preview series with 2024 first round selection Marek Vanacker, going through my full preview of his season and his expected role, my full expectations, and everything in between. And of course, I've already gone through prospect previews for fellow noteworthy Blackhawks prospects like Anton Frondel, Sasha Boisvert, and Roman Kanserov. Go and check those out if you haven't done so already. They are easily accessible on the Locked On Blackhawks YouTube channel. I've created a prospect preview playlist where you can easily find all of the episodes there. But Marek Vanacker on deck here today, the 27th overall pick for the Blackhawks in the 2024 NHL draft. He's a 6'1", 170-pound winger who just turned 19 years old back in April and has spent the past 3 seasons playing for the Brantford Bulldogs in the OHL, a club that's pretty familiar to us Blackhawks fans at this point, considering Nick Lardis has been playing for them the last couple of seasons along with Vanacker. And during his draft year, Vanacker exploded onto the scene and recorded an impressive 82 points, 36 goals, and 46 assists in 68 games, leading the team in both goals and points that season. And that was a year, as some of you may remember, where Nick Lardis missed a pretty good amount of time. Vanacker definitely stepped up in his absence, and that helped skyrocket his draft stock, leading to the Blackhawks trading back into the first round and ultimately selecting him at number 27. But after being selected by the Blackhawks, it was announced that Vanacker had to undergo surgery to repair a torn labrum. That forced him to miss all of training camp and preseason and a pretty hefty chunk of the start of the OHL campaign. He wound up only playing in 45 games last year, tallying just 42 points, 24 goals, and 18 assists, which I will say is definitely a bit disappointing considering how well he produced during his draft year, right? And following, well, he missed a lot of time that summer being off of the ice, recovering from the injury. It's just another year of maturity, being a year older in that same league, right? You probably would have liked to see Vanacker be above a point per game, but did miss out on, just his regular regimen and off-season training and lead into the start of the season. I'm sure that didn't help his cause. And one thing I wanted to point out as well, when he was in the lineup during the regular season, I'll actually touch more on this here in just a second when diving into his projected role this year, but he was mostly utilized on the second line. And just considering how productive the top line was for Brantford, and those guys being the main focal points of the power play, right? Vanacker wasn't like put in the top offensive role to succeed, especially when, you have a guy like Nick Lardis burying 70 goals, playing the right dot spot on the top power play, and that line being the top line, getting a ton of the offensive opportunities. I think that also contributed to a little bit of a dip in Vanacker's production this season, as well as missing the start of the year due to the injury. But I will note he definitely picked up his play as the season progressed, was a much more consistent contributor there down the stretch, the second half of the season. And then also he was probably playing his best and most consistent hockey in the OHL playoffs when he tallied 11 points, 6 goals, and 5 assists in 11 postseason games. So definitely ended the season on a high note at the very least. And that takes us to right here, right now, where Vanacker, as I mentioned, is going to be returning to Brantford for his 4th and final season. And last year, like I said just a moment ago, he was mostly utilized on that second line left wing spot. But now with Nick Lardis, as well as Patrick Thomas and Cole Brown, the 3 regular top liners from last year, with all 3 of them now having departed the OHL, it's fully time for Vanacker to go up on the top line and dominate. And what I'm really excited for, Blackhawks fans, is, who's also going to be returning to the Brantford Bulldogs this year? 2025 first round pick, top 10 selection, Jake O'Brien, he's been excellent for Brantford these last couple of seasons, right? But he's going to be back there along with Marek Vanacker, and those 2 were line mates on Brantford's second line for the majority of last season, as well as throughout the OHL postseason up until Nick Lardis had gotten hurt. And those 2 even spent time playing on the same line the year prior in spurts. So these are 2 high-level prospects, both first-round selections in the last couple of years, that are going to be returning for Brantford in the OHL this year, and I fully expect both of them to be line mates once again on the Bulldogs top line to open up the season. And boy, oh boy, the rest of the league should be on full tilt, because these 2 are going to be putting up some fun numbers I fully expect here this season. But as far as the role goes for Vanacker, he should be given all the opportunities in the world this season, I should say. Should be playing the left wing spot on the Bulldogs top line, should be getting chances on the top power play unit, all the offensive situations. And considering Vanacker's diverse kind of makeup, I wouldn't even be surprised to be seeing him on the penalty kill for the Bulldogs this season as well, which I definitely think will kind of help round out his form and kind of help diversify his skill set and utilize some of his skills in different ways, which he's going to have to do when he does make the leap to the professional level. So should be a lot of fun seeing Marek Vanacker up on that top line along with Jake O'Brien here this season. As far as what I kind of want to see him work on or figure out here in his final year in the OHL, altogether, I would just love to see him get off to a fast start and dominate right from day one, right off the rip. And I also want to see him, I think, he's going to be a natural goal scorer along with Jake O'Brien this year. And I do think his goal scoring is probably going to be his best attribute at the next level, but he is well-rounded offensively. He does have some good playmaking. He has some really good foot speed. And I would just like to see him utilize that speed of his and be a more dominant puck carrier here and playmaker this season, kind of fine-tune that part of his game a little bit before making that leap. And he's going to be given all the opportunities in the world, like I already mentioned, to do so here this season. So make the most of the opportunity, get off to a roaring start, pick up where you left off from last season, rekindle that flame along with Jake O'Brien, and then continue to just get stronger and be more physical. As a player who's, 6'1", he's got some decent size and frame to him, 170 pounds, which, is always tough to know if it's truly accurate, right? And updating prospects' weights on some of these websites is always a little bit difficult to track. But regardless of what Vanacker weighs right here, right now, he is a little bit thin and a little bit undersized for someone who kind of has a power forward-ish type of style to his game at times. And to thrive in that spot, or to truly become a power forward-ish type of forward in the NHL, he's going to have to continue to get stronger, definitely on his edges as well, and utilizing some of that speed in transition to bully his way to the net. So just get a little bit thicker out there, tougher on your edges, harder to play against along the boards, and definitely would love to see Vanacker as well get some chances on the penalty kill. I think because of his speed, because of his size, and the ability to make plays in multiple different ways, I do think there's an opportunity that he plays as a defensive style forward who could be on the penalty kill one day down the road for the Blackhawks. There's only so many spots, right, for offensive-minded guys moving forward. And yeah, we definitely want Vanacker contributing on that side of things, considering he was a first-round pick. But I do think his true upside in the NHL is being a very well-rounded player. So I would like to see him work on those things a little bit more here this season with the Bulldogs as well. Rounding things out, though, finally, my expectations for Marek Vanacker this season. I fully expect Vanacker to be a top 20 scorer in the OHL this season and possibly even inside the top 10. There's definitely that upside considering he's back along with Jake O'Brien, a guy who tallied 98 points with the Bulldogs last season. So he definitely has a 100-point upside. We saw Vanacker, 2 seasons ago in 23-24, his draft year register 82 points, 36 goals, and 46 assists. I know he obviously didn't get back to that level of production last year and was even under a point per game in the regular season. But I do think getting back to his regularly scheduled offseason, and again, being older and mature and one of the older players in this league, right, on a line that should absolutely thrive. Yeah, I think he's going to find his footing with the Bulldogs here this season. Him and Jake O'Brien are going to be a lot of fun to watch. I definitely think 80 points, getting back to that 80-point plateau should be well within reason for Marek Vanacker. And I think even hitting 90 points is well within reason as well. And I do think there's the potential for him to crack 100 here this season, should all things go well with he and Jake O'Brien on that top line and on the top power play unit. I do think a 40-goal, 50-assist type of campaign is well within reach. I think that's a reasonable expectation for Vanacker. Again, considering 2 seasons ago when he was just 17, he had 36 goals and 46 assists in this league. Asking him to score 4 more goals and get 4 more assists when he's going to be given more opportunities, I really think is well within the realm of possibility. So that's kind of what I'm expecting out of Vanacker. 90, 95-point campaign, possibly even creeping into the triple digits. As I've said many of times, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch him and Jake O'Brien cook in their final years together in the OHL. Then it's going to be the leap to the professional scene for Marek Vanacker, along with, players like Sasha Boisvert, fully expecting him, should things go well with Boston University this season, to come out of college hockey. Roman Kancerov's contract in the KHL will have been expired. Anton Frondel could possibly be arriving once his SHL season closes out. It's going to be a lot of fun watching these high-level prospects and former first-round selections, high second-round pick in Roman Kancerov's case, make their way to the professional scene sooner rather than later. But that's going to take care of my full preview on Marek Vanacker's upcoming season in the OHL. Go and hit me down below in the comment section, Blackhawks fans, with how many points you think Vanacker is going to rack up with the Bulldogs here this season. Coming up in just a moment, I'll dive into Mitch Brown from Elite Prospects' top 100 prospects rankings, with the Blackhawks being well represented once again. But first, I do got to let you all know that today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head on over to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands enjoying that lovely summer weather. Well, that's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's both the fastest and easiest way for you to grab your last minute tickets without the stress. And with the money that you save on tickets, you can then splurge on food, drinks, merch, or you can even invite a bigger group to come to the game with you. And Game Time also makes buying tickets both fast and simple, because prices on the app actually drop the closer that you get to the first pitch, and they have incredible last-minute deals. They also offer clear seat views and have a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying your tickets. So go and take the guesswork out of buying your tickets right now with Game Time. All you got to do is download the Game Time app, create an account, and then use our promo code LOCKEDONNHL in all caps to get $20 off with your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNHL in all caps for $20 off when you download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Game Time. Real quick before I get into segment 2, just a reminder to please go and smash that like button down below if you haven't done so already. And if you regularly enjoy the content that I produce here on Locked On Blackhawks, make sure to subscribe to the channel. It's 100% free, won't cost you anything, and really does help me out in a massive way as I'm now on the climb to 3,000 subscribers, which I don't know if it's realistic, but I'd love to hit that goal before the Blackhawks regular season opens up in October. And also, hit me up in the comment section below, along with how many points you expect Marek Vanacker to cook this season in the OHL. Let me know which Blackhawks prospect you want to see me cover next on my prospect preview series. Segment 2 on today's show, though. Mitch Brown from Elite Prospects recently dropped his top 100 prospects list. And I'm sure some of you remember not all that long ago on the show, I broke down Scott Wheeler from The Athletic. He annually drops, maybe it's even biannually. He might do it once or twice a year. Can't remember the exact number, but regardless, not all that long ago this summer, Scott Wheeler dropped his top 100 drafted NHL prospects list. And the Blackhawks had the most prospects of any NHL club on that list with 7. The Washington Capitals and the Nashville Predators were right behind both of them, having 6 prospects on the list. But I definitely wanted to compare and contrast these two lists, talk about which prospects came in where on both Brown's and Scott Wheeler's top 100, and then altogether just talk about how awesome it is that the Blackhawks have the deepest prospect pool, in my opinion, in the entire NHL. But just as a reminder as to where the 7 Blackhawks prospects came into Scott Wheeler's top 100 that I broke down probably about a month ago now on the show, Artem Levshinov was the one who kicked things off as far as Blackhawks prospects go in Wheeler's top 100. Levshinov came in at number 7. Then Anton Frondell was next at number 12. Sam Rinzel, the third Blackhawks prospect on the list, at number 26. And as I've been outspoken about a couple of different times here on the show recently, I think there's a pretty clear-cut top 3 prospects in the Hawks organization right now. And again, just a quick plug, go and check out my summer 2025 Blackhawks top prospects list, where I ranked them 1 through 20 in the organization. It's one of my favorite segments that I do on the show a couple of times throughout the course of the year. Go and check that out if you haven't done so already, to see who I have as the top 5, top 10, top 20 prospects in the organization and how I had these top 3 prospects ranked out. Next on Scott Wheeler's list, after Rinzel came in at number 26, there was another Hawks prospect found until number 62, which was Kevin Korchinski. Then just 9 spots later at number 71 was 2023 first-round selection Oliver Moore. Nick Lardis popped up next at number 83. And then the 7th and final Blackhawks prospect in Scott Wheeler's top 100 was Sasha Boisvert at number 87. Mitch Brown, like Scott Wheeler, had 7 Blackhawks prospects a part of his top 100, and also had one other prospect as part of his honorable mentions list. Kicking things off for Mitch Brown, and go and check out the full top 100 list done by Mitch Brown on Elite Prospects. You can easily go and check that out. I'll probably have a link down in the description on today's episode for those who are interested. However, I should point out it is behind a paywall. I know that'll probably steer some people away, but truly Elite Prospects does the Lord's work, some of the best work in the industry on prospects and prospects list for every single NHL club. I would definitely recommend getting a subscription. It's really not unreasonably priced, and as a hockey fan, comes up clutch more times than not. Kicking things off on Mitch Brown's list, just like Scott Wheeler, the number 1 Blackhawk for Brown was Artem Levshinov. However, Wheeler had him coming in at number 7. Mitch Brown has Levshinov coming in at number 10, so has him a little bit lower than Wheeler did. Second Blackhawks prospect in Brown's top 100 was Sam Rinzel, coming in at number 16. So Wheeler had Rinzel at number 26. Brown has him here at number 16. Anton Frondell, sticking on the theme of the clear-cut top 3. Same thing here for Mitch Brown. He comes in, though, at number 26, which, interestingly enough, like I just said, is where Sam Rinzel rated out on Scott Wheeler's list. So Brown a little bit higher on Rinzel than Wheeler is. Not quite as high on Frondell as Wheeler is, though. But both of these two draft scouts / analysts both have Artem Levshinov, interestingly enough, as the number one prospect in the Blackhawks organization. I'm not going to completely spill the beans on my own prospect rankings that I've done here recently, but I will say Artem Levshinov was not number one on my list. At number 4 here for Mitch Brown, at number 37, you might remember I said after Rinzel came in at 26 on Wheeler's list, there was a sizable gap until the next Blackhawks prospect, which didn't appear until number 62. That isn't the case here with Mitch Brown. The next Blackhawk on deck after Frondell at number 26 comes at number 37, in Oliver Moore, who was 71st on Scott Wheeler's list. So clearly, Mitch Brown, much higher on someone like Oliver Moore here, probably is just more entrusting upon his speed to help develop his offensive skill set. And if he has him at number 37, he's probably thinking he has a good chance to be a second line center of the future here in Chicago, which is obviously a position that is going to be very interesting to see who it's going to wind up turning to in years down the road. Could be Anton Frondell, could be Frank Nazar, maybe Oliver Moore. Has more offense in store than we kind of think of right here, right now, and he winds up taking that second line center spot. Could even possibly be Sasha Boisvert down the road. There's a lot of possibilities for that Blackhawks 2C spot, but with Mitch Brown having Oliver Moore here at 37, I'm guessing that's kind of what he thinks about him. Moore comes in at number 4 in terms of the Blackhawks prospects on Mitch Brown's ranking. Then after Oliver Moore, there is a sizable gap until the next Blackhawks prospect. Coming in at number 69 for Mitch Brown is a player I really love in this Hawks prospect pool. It's Sasha Boisvert, who I'm super excited to see what he's going to do for one of the top programs in all of college hockey, Boston University, this year. Likely going to be skating along with former first-round pick Cole Iserman. He was number 87 on Scott Wheeler's list, the last Blackhawks prospect who appeared in his top 100. I'd probably lean more towards Mitch Brown's ranking on Sasha Boisvert. I'm pretty high on this kid. I do think his shot gives him, potentially 30-goal upside at the next level. And another player who's very well-rounded and plays tough on his skates. Obviously, some boxes that KD has checked off consistently in NHL drafts since taking over. Like this ranking of Sasha Boisvert at number 69. Very nice. At number 77 here for Mitch Brown, kind of a surprise, I think, in the top 100. Did not appear in Scott Wheeler's. It's 2025 first-round pick Vaclav Nestrasil, who I'll be getting into more here in just a second during segment 3, if you all stick with me. Going to be playing his freshman season in college hockey this fall with UMass. 6'6", 190 pounds, and has good offensive instincts along with skating ability for a player of his size. Definitely gives him a pretty high ceiling, even though he is a little bit raw still at this point in his development, but can understand why Mitch Brown has a player of his mold inside his top 100 here at number 77. And then last but certainly not least, the 7th Blackhawk inside the top 100 actually comes at number 100, and it's 2023 third-round selection Nick Lardis, who's going to be playing his first season of professional hockey this fall, I should say. Will be pushing for one of those final forward spots on the opening night roster, but more than likely going to be opening up the season in the AHL with the Rockford Ice Hogs. Scott Wheeler had Lardis at number 83, Brown a little bit lower on him, coming in at number 100 here. But if the goal scoring translates, Nick Lardis definitely has the ability to be much higher on both of these lists than Scott Wheeler and Mitch Brown have him ranked. The one honorable mention Blackhawks prospect that wound up in this category on Mitch Brown's list was Ethan Del Mastro, my guy, who I've been super excited for these last couple of years. The first Blackhawks prospect I actually ever got to interview, and I fully expect Del Mastro to solidify that third pairing left-handed defenseman spot on the Blackhawks opening night roster. I think it's fully time for him to be a full-time NHLer, and I think there's a good chance he solidifies that piece moving forward, considering how well his development has gone and the size that he brings to the table. And I've been outspoken about kind of his underappreciated puck skills. While they're never going to be top level or anything, I definitely think he has the higher upside compared to someone like Nolan Allen, who is probably going to be in consideration for the same role on the Blackhawks blue line moving forward. So to kind of compare these lists once and for all, what I think was the most interesting is that Kevin Korchinski did not appear in the top 100 at all for Mitch Brown, while he came in at number 62 for Scott Wheeler. So, there's obviously been some concern about Kevin Korchinski's development, but is still a kid who just turned 21 years old this summer. So I probably would still have him inside my top 100 personally, but definitely something to point out here in the dispersion between these two lists. Mitch Brown also way higher on Oliver Moore than Scott Wheeler is, having him at number 37, while Wheeler had him at number 71. Boisvert was also a little bit higher on Mitch Brown's list as well, coming in at number 69 compared to number 87 on Wheeler's. Both Boisvert and Nick Lardis did make both of these lists. Ethan Del Mastro obviously gets an honorable mention spot in Mitch Brown's, while Vaclav Nestrasil pops up only in Mitch Brown's list, did not crack the top 100 for Scott Wheeler. But altogether, the biggest takeaway is just, wow, what a deep prospect pool the Blackhawks have accumulated these last couple of years. And I know it's been frustrating to see the losses pile up during that time span, but this is what you get because of it. And if you're not excited about the future of the Blackhawks, I don't know what to tell you. I know obviously a lot is still up in the air in terms of what these players are going to turn out to be, but there is so much ceiling in this prospect pool with all the high-level players that KD has accumulated in recent years. And we're just starting to finally see some of these guys come onto the NHL scene, and that's a theme that's going to continue towards the end of these next upcoming seasons. I know it might be a season not filled with tons of wins, but I really do think it's going to be a fun year to be a fan of the Chicago Blackhawks. And we're finally going to see some of these key puzzle pieces making a consistent impact up in the NHL. But that is going to close out my thoughts on the Blackhawks having 7 prospects come in on Mitch Brown's top 100 prospects list that he recently dropped for Elite Prospects. Coming up in just a moment here, Blackhawks fans. I know we're running a little bit long already, but still want to talk briefly about 2025 first-round pick Vaclav Nestrasil, who I just mentioned a moment ago, taking part in the upcoming Five Nations tournament. First, though, I do got to talk to you all quickly about the fine folks over at FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, which is a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. Whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, then this is your moment. And I've already put together a parlay of Bijan Robinson Offensive Player of the Year with Tua Tagovailoa Comeback Player of the Year. To join me, fade me, or create your own wager, go and check out the FanDuel app here today and start planning those futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Again, just wanted to say thank you to everyone for making Locked On Blackhawks your very first listen here to start off your day. For your second listen, go and check out the Locked On NHL podcast, where there is no offseason, bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter the most with the local coverage you love from Locked On. And you can easily find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you may be listening to your podcasts. Segment 3, the Five Nations Tournament, the U20 Five Nations Tournament, featuring Finland, Sweden, Switzerland, Czechia, and Czechia, and why am I forgetting the fifth nation? Slovakia. Marian Hossa would be very disappointed in me right now. But the Five Nations Tournament, U20, is set to begin here in just a couple of days' time on Wednesday, August 27th, and is going to run through Sunday, August 31st. In Czechia is about to begin here in just a couple of days' time, and serves as a final opportunity for these countries to get a look at some players ahead of the World Junior Championship coming up here this winter. Obviously, the United States and Canada just took part in the World Junior Summer Showcase. This is kind of on the same level over in Europe. And why I wanted to bring this up here on the show is because recently Vaclav Nestrasil was named to Team Czechia's roster for this Five Nations tournament, which he's one of 13 NHL prospects to be a part of this roster. I don't know if they're taking all of their top guys, considering like the timing of this tournament. Some guys who might be playing for, European clubs are already taking part in preseason action and whatnot. And I haven't seen a roster from any other country beside Czechia. I really did search through the internet pretty hardly, and I didn't see one for Sweden. I didn't see one for Finland yet. And I really couldn't find all that much information on this tournament as a whole for the 2025 edition outside of the Czechs roster. So I don't really have a ton to go on outside of this. And the reason I bring this up is because with Sweden taking part in the tournament, obviously there's a chance that Anton Frandell could play for Team Sweden here. He's going to be a massive focal point of their roster come World Juniors time this winter. But I would anticipate if there was a high-level prospect like Anton Frandell or someone like Victor Eklund representing Sweden in this tournament, it would probably be somewhere on social media. And I would expect that, we're 2 days out from the start of this thing. It would probably be posted somewhere at this point in time. In addition to both, Eklund and Frandell playing for Djurgården in the SHL, their preseason action has already began. Their start of the season is just a couple of weeks away. So fully not expecting Anton Frandell to be taking part in this tournament unless we get some crazy development in the next couple of days. So I don't know how much best on best for each of these countries or how much of their true rosters are really going to be taking part in this Five Nations. I really, again, couldn't find all that much on it on the internet, but I did want to bring up just real quick Nestrasil being invited to this tournament, being a part of the forward group, being one of the 13 NHL prospects on this roster right here, right now. Obviously, things can still change, but I think there's a decent chance that Nestrasil is going to wind up on this roster for the World Juniors, just given it's not, Czechia has a solid roster, but it's not the deepest one of any of these teams. And even as a 2007 born player who just got drafted, I feel like with his upside, 6'6" frame, skating ability, you can utilize someone like Nestrasil in a lot of different roles. So to me, from an outsider perspective, I think that gives him a pretty good chance for playing for the Czechs at the World Juniors here this winter, but definitely is at the very least on their radar and right on the precipice. Hopefully he has a good performance here in the Five Nations tournament. I don't know how much of that is going to be tweeted out on social media, considering there hasn't really been a ton of coverage on this leading up to it, but any developments we get regarding, Vaclav Nestrasil or maybe any other Blackhawks prospect, I'll make sure to bring it up and talk about it right here on Locked On Blackhawks. But just wanted to make you all aware that Nestrasil is at least, on the precipice of making the Czechs roster for this year's World Junior Championship. Hopefully he has a strong showing for them here in this Five Nations tournament, which again is set to begin on Wednesday and run through Sunday, August 31st. But that's going to wrap up today's episode of Locked On Blackhawks, everyone. As always, thank you all again for joining me on the show. Be sure to subscribe to Locked On Blackhawks on YouTube if you haven't done so already. Follow Locked On Blackhawks for free as well, wherever you may be listening to your podcast, and that way you don't miss out on any of the latest episodes. You can check me out on X at Jack Bushman too, but make sure to follow my strictly Blackhawks account at Talkin' Hockey. That way you don't miss out on any of the latest Blackhawks news and updates. Until the next episode, everyone, enjoy the rest of your Monday. Wrong button. Classic. I'll see you next time on the Locked On Blackhawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.